Pancake, everyone! Old photographs hold memories of truly unique events. As in the past, photographs were taken only on very special occasions. Let's take a look at the most unusual moments from the past. Recall your childhood. Was your journey to school filled with obstacles and challenges? No? But what if your only way to get to school was by crossing a river, not using a bridge but via a zip line? These kids from Italy didn't have a choice. In the late 1950s, they were so eager for knowledge that nothing could stop them. In the early days after the Normandy invasion in June 1944, British and American troops faced a serious shortage of adult beverages, particularly beer. Soldiers complained that watery cider was the only alcohol available in recently liberated French towns. Fortunately, the Royal Air Force of Great Britain, in collaboration with English breweries, was ready to solve this problem. Beer for the soldiers was successfully delivered in barrels attached to fighter planes, as you can see in this rare photo. Did you know that inside the R2-D2 robot from Star Wars, there was a human all along? His name was Kenny Baker. He portrayed this character, if you could call it that, in 6 episodes of the famous saga. Kenny's height was 112 centimeters, and he worked as an actor in circuses and cabarets until George Lucas hired him for the role in 1977. When you see R2 swaying side to side or rotating its head, know that it's Baker. And the proof is right before your eyes. In this photograph, you can see the actor himself during a lunch break on the set of Star Wars. And this shot is truly unique. On September 7, 1909, explorer Robert E. Peary joyfully reported that he had finally reached the North Pole. Prior to this expedition, the North Pole was a truly mysterious place where no human had set foot. Soon after this photograph was made public, Robert E. Peary rightfully earned the title of a trailblazer. French biologist Jean Dorst noted that initially the global bison population was around 75 million individuals, yet by the years 1880 to 1885, stories from North American hunters mentioned hunting the last bison. In the late 1840s, approximately 2.5 million bison were killed annually, and from 1872 to 1874, about 3.5 million were killed. In this photo, you can see the scale of this tragedy. Entire mountains of bison skulls. Luckily, this unique animal was eventually preserved. In 1924, Parisians used chairs to combat flooding. No, they weren't trying to prevent flooding using furniture. Chairs became one of the means of transportation on land that had been submerged by water. Parisians struggled with the flooding throughout January. The rainy autumn of 1923 and heavy precipitation in winter caused the water level in the Seine to rise to 7.3 meters. This was one of the largest floods in the history of Paris. The most severe flood happened in the winter of 1910, when the water level in the river rose to 8.68 meters. In this photograph, you can witness a display of a real 1930s discipline. Border collies formed a neat line, each with a bowl in its mouth, waiting for lunch. Even if this photo was staged, and it's unlikely that dogs were fed exactly like this, it's still interesting to observe these intelligent animals. And this, my friends, is the very first photograph in the history of humanity. It was taken in 1826 by the French inventor and artist Joseph Nicephore Niepce. It depicts a view from the window of the man's house. The process of creating the first photographs was long and intricate. Niepce used a plate coated with asphalt as a photosensitive material. Asphalt became solid when exposed to light, and in the areas where light hit the plate, the asphalt remained soft and could be removed, creating a monotone image. There are 3 first photographs of Earth from space. The reason is that they were taken almost simultaneously, sparking debates about which image came first. So what are these photos about? One of them was taken by the Soviet spacecraft Molniya 1 on June 7, 1967. It depicts not the entire planet, but only a part of it. The photo was published in the magazine Earth and Universe in March 1968. The next image emerged due to the efforts of the US Department of Defense. The satellite Dodge captured the first color photo of the entire Earth's disk on August 1, 1967, but it was not released. However, on November 10th of the same year, the ATS-3 satellite, a project of the US National Science Foundation, captured a photo that soon appeared in newspapers and graced the cover of the first issue of the Whole Earth catalog. On February 9, 1942, a catastrophe occurred in New York. In the Grand Salon, a team of workers was engaged in cutting partitions and walls inside the ship's hull using gas burners. Not noticing sparks, one worker accidentally ignited a pile of life vests. There were no firefighters on board at that time, and the fire suppression system was disabled. After 12 minutes, New York firefighters arrived on the scene, but initially couldn't enter due to workers running out of the burning ship. After an hour of chaos and confusion, firefighters finally began extinguishing the fire. Water poured onto the deck of the Normandy, starting accumulating on one side, causing a dangerous tilt to the right. The designer of the Normandy, Vladimir, arrived at the scene and suggested that the ship could be saved from capsizing by opening the sea valves and letting the ship settle on the Hudson River bottom. However, his advice was ignored. During the night, the tilt increased. The fire went out. Around 2:45 on February 10th, the Normandy slowly tipped to the left and remained lying at an angle of 79 degrees near the pier. This is what you can see in the historic photo. Sweden was the last country in continental Europe to switch to right-hand traffic. This happened on September 3, 1967, known as Dagen H or H-Day. From 1 a.m. to 6 a.m., personal vehicles were not allowed to move. During this time, workers switched on the right traffic lights and set up new road signs. At 4:50 a.m. on September 3rd, all vehicles had to stop and switch to the other side of the road. But something went wrong. Apparently, not all residents of Sweden received the news. You might come across this photo on the internet with the caption 650 soldiers paying tribute to animals that died in World War I, but this photo was taken under very different circumstances. The photographer is Almiron Newman, and the image shows 650 officers and enlisted personnel from the Horse Depot No. 326 of the U.S. Army's Quartermaster Corps, responsible for training and supplying horses to the military. The participants of the group photo arranged themselves in the shape of a horse's head, not just any horse, but a specific riding horse named Devil, owned by Major Frank J. Brewer, the commanding officer of this unit. This is evident from the caption in the photo, which someone thoughtfully erased before posting it on social media. In the background, you can see the Quartermaster Corps camp with stables and horse enclosures extending far into the horizon. It's quite possible that the photo was taken in memory of Brewer's beloved horse that had passed away. However, considering that he commanded a logistical unit and not a frontline one, it's likely that the horse didn't die in combat, or might have still been alive when the photo was taken. And certainly this photo wasn't a tribute to fallen horses in World War I, even though the myth is indeed beautiful. The photograph Boulevard du Temple in Paris by Louis Daguerre is considered the first photograph to feature a person. The reason is that in the early years after the invention of photography, exposure times were very long, and moving figures couldn't imprint themselves on the photo, appearing as if they were disappearing. That's why the streets of cities and photos from that time appear empty. Here, however, a shoe polisher and his client remained almost motionless throughout the 10-minute exposure. As photography developed, exposure time significantly decreased, allowing photographers to work with candid subjects. This led to the creation of the two most famous tornado photographs, taken with a 4-month gap in 1884 in the United States. The first was captured in Kansas in April, and the second in South Dakota in August, a truly unique and terrifying sight. In September 1962, George Aird, a test pilot for an airspace company, was on a routine flight when his aircraft was damaged. Sensors indicated a fire in the intermediate reheating zone. Aird had to plan an emergency landing. The nearest airfield was about 15 miles away. Unfavorable weather conditions forced Aird to switch to a different runway during approach. Unfortunately, the length of the chosen runway was insufficient for military aircraft, as indicated by the manually operated barrier at the end of the strip. With about 10 seconds left before impact, the aircraft was at an altitude of about 30 meters, and a sudden pitch-up occurred. This caused the control systems to fail, forcing the pilot to eject. The aircraft crashed on the airfield, broke apart and caught fire. Fortunately for Ed, the ejection was successful, despite the record low altitude. In 1946, Romanian Roma practiced a rather peculiar form of medicine. In one of the surviving photos from that time, a live and docile bear is used as a therapeutic tool. According to archival records, the Roma used bears to treat backs. Within the Roma community, there are various groups. Bear trainers are called ursari, and they purportedly understand animals and can communicate with them on a certain level. It was this group that devised the medical practice for treating backs. The exact purpose of the bear's involvement is not entirely clear. Based on the photos, the practice appears to involve realigning vertebrae or improving posture. It's possible that a similar practice persists today in remote villages in Romania. However, the ursari no longer demonstrate such tricks to the public. On April 24, 1967, one of the most tragic incidents in the Soviet space exploration occurred. The country lost a brilliant individual, a Soviet hero, cosmonaut Vladimir Komarov. He died when the space capsule of the Soyuz-1 spacecraft crashed due to parachute failure during a rapid re-entry into the atmosphere. In this photograph, we can see Soviet officials inspecting Komarov's charred remains during his open casket funeral. From August to September 1951, people observed glowing lights in the skies over Texas and New Mexico. A married couple on the outskirts of Albuquerque noticed an object over their house resembling an airplane wing. Around 20 minutes later, residents of Lubbock saw a chain of blue-green lights, and radars detected a moving object. Edward Ruppelt, leader of the U.S. Air Force's Project Blue Book, was tasked with investigating the incident. The nature of these strange lights remains unknown to this day. Some believe they were reflected light from migratory birds, others speculate they were lights in fog, while a third group was convinced they were UFOs. On May 24, 1913, a fight took place between Luther McCarthy and Arthur Pelkey. Just 2 minutes into the fight, McCarthy collapsed from a light blow by his opponent. As the referee counted to 10, a light fixture fell onto the boxer's body. Throughout this time, it illuminated Luther lying on the floor. After 8 minutes, doctors determined that McCarthy had died from a brain hemorrhage. The next day, the arena where the fight occurred burned down completely. After the war, a girl who essentially grew up in a concentration camp was sent to an orphanage for mentally unstable children. During class, when the caregivers asked her to draw a house, she depicted a disturbing chaos resembling a tangled barbed wire the most. At the top of the drawing, it reads Tereska, which is the name of the little artist. On April 1, 1946, an 8.6 magnitude earthquake off the coast of the Aleutian Islands in Alaska triggered shockwaves throughout the Pacific Ocean. A tsunami quickly formed spanning the entire ocean, resulting in waves as tall as 13 stories. Soon the tsunami struck Hilo, Hawaii, causing the death of over 170 people, marking one of the most devastating disasters in Hawaii's history. In this chilling photo, the last moments of an unidentified person's life are captured in the bottom left corner. These are the kind of extraordinary images that history preserves. Studying old photographs transports us to different eras, full of mysteries and incredible events. Who knows? Perhaps hundreds of years from now, our photos will find their way into similar collections. Thank you for watching.